Starting off with breaking news here at 6, the acting police chief of Dolton now facing federal charges. The grand jury indicted him on bankruptcy fraud charges today.
Welcome back to the channel. What is going on with the goings on up in Dolton? A federal grand jury in Chicago has charged Lacey, the acting police deputy chief in suburban Dolton, with bankruptcy fraud charges in connection with an alleged scheme to conceal assets and income from creditors and prevent payment of the settlement of a lawsuit. 61-year-old Lacey, a Madison resident, has been charged with bankruptcy fraud, making false statements and declaration in a bankruptcy case, and perjury, according to a 9-count indictment returned in U.S. District Court in Chicago on Monday afternoon. The indictment alleges that since the 1980s, Lacey filed several personal bankruptcy cases in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Illinois, including in 2019 and 2020, which includes material, false, and fraudulent representation, which automatically stayed enforcement of a settlement agreement that he had reached in a lawsuit in state court in 2017. Prosecutors said the 2019 bankruptcy petition was alleged filed shortly after the plaintiff moved to enforce the settlement agreement, which accused Lacey of still owing $43,000 of the $55,000 settlement. According to the indictment in the oral statement and the documents submitted in the bankruptcy case, Lacey alleged lied about being separated from his spouse and claimed that she did not reside with him or contribute to his income and mortgage. Prosecutors said the false representation allowed Lacey to report smaller amounts of monthly income to avoid payment of the settlement. Lacey attempted to and did defraud his creditors by making false and fraudulent statements in oral statements and documents. The federal indictment stated in part, if convicted, Lacey could face a maximum sentence of 5 years in federal prison for each count. Lacey's arraignment has not yet been scheduled. They're trying to find people that will shy away and cooperate with them against the mayor, Lacey's attorney, Gal said. Gal called the indictment a witch hunt and said it was being used to try and get to Mayor Henyard. They start with people they believe they can flip. They go down the line. They show up at 6 o'clock in the morning when a person is not lawyered up, when a person is just waking up, and they'll tell you, oh, I'm here just to talk and be nice to you and don't worry about it, and you're not under arrest, and then we're going to leave and we're not going to arrest you today. But here are some questions that we have for you. So immediately a person puts his foot in his mouth, and from there the fish is caught. On Thursday, during a highly anticipated presentation on Dolton's finances from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, it was revealed that Lacey had received more than $200,000 in overtime over the last 4 fiscal years. So let's get straight into it. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and please comment below. Thank you for tuning in.
Dolton's deputy chief, Lacey, who stepped in as top cop before he was reportedly fired last week, is now facing charges of bankruptcy fraud. The indictment came down just days after an independent investigation revealed last week alleged wrongdoing by Lacey.
It's a great day in Dolton. Justice is being served.
Residents reacting after the police department's acting chief was slapped with a 9-count federal indictment. Lacey is accused of bankruptcy fraud, making false statements and declarations, and lying under oath.
So happy for Dolton that we're going to get some type of justice.
A 24-page indictment shows Lacey filed for bankruptcy 7 times in about 40 years. In a more recent case, Lacey is accused of underreporting his income and lying about being separated from his wife, claiming she wasn't contributing to their shared expenses. Prosecutors say Lacey did this to avoid paying back more than $40,000 he owed in a settlement.
This is going to be a domino effect, and we got to take the rest of the trash out.
Lacey, now the second ally of self-proclaimed super mayor Tiffany Henyard to face federal charges of bankruptcy fraud. He He follows top aide Keith Freeman, who some believe to be cooperating with trustees in their call for an investigation against the mayor. Lacey's attorney says all of this is a ploy to trick his client.
That's exactly what the U.S. attorney does every single time. They start with people that they believe that they can flip.
I'm sure Lacey is going to try to save himself.
The federal charges leveled against Lacey separate from accusations shared by Lori Lightfoot, the former mayor and federal prosecutor hired by the village to conduct an independent investigation, sharing her findings last week. Lacey was allegedly paid more than $200,000 in overtime over the last several years, but here's the catch. He's not eligible for OT.
She's not a judge. She's not a jury. She's not an administrative law individual that can rule on whether or not Mr. Lacey was overpaid or underpaid or whatever it is.
The village fired Lacey last week after he was placed on leave. Even after his notice of termination, WGN is told he continued to show for work. When asked to confirm his status of employment, Lacey's attorney deflected, saying this.
It's the trustees that are trying to coordinate a coup in that town without any due process.
But the due process now begins in his federal bankruptcy case, as residents say they're eager to see what comes next.
I'm just so happy because this man needs to be taken off the street. He does not need a gun or anything, period.
Lacey's attorney says he plans to surrender in court and they will enter a not guilty plea.
Deputy Police Chief Lewis Lacey was fired and now charged with multiple felony counts. He appears to be the first person charged in connection with the scandal that's blanketing the village. Marissa Perlman's been digging into these developments. She joins us live now from the newsroom with more. Marissa?
Good morning to you, Maria. Prosecutors say former police chief Lewis Lacey hid assets from creditors and lied about his monthly income in bankruptcy cases, hiding multiple bank accounts that he controlled. Now, we saw Lacey leaving Village Hall just last week, walking to his car. This was just one day after he was placed on administrative leave and then fired, though village officials didn't reveal a reason publicly at the time for letting him go. Prosecutors released a statement saying the 61-year-old who lives in Madison claimed he made about $5,000 monthly, when in reality it was substantially more. The statement says, in part, the false representations allowed Lacey to fraudulently calculate his monthly income for purposes of repayment of his creditors as substantially less than it should have been. Records obtained by the CBS Chicago investigators show Lacey filed for bankruptcy 9 times between 1984 and 2020. And then just last week, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot shared her investigation into Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's use of village money. She found the village is more than $3.5 million in debt. As part of that report, Lightfoot said money spent on employee overtime jumped year after year.
Trustees arranged a special meeting with an agenda of items they say their embattled mayor has not been taken care of. WGN's Jenna Barnes is live in Dolton again tonight with the latest. Jenna?
Ray and Micah, the Board of Trustees did approve some layoffs when they came back from closed session, as they say Dolton is facing a financial crisis.
It's unfortunate, but we have to make these tough decisions so that we can make payroll. It's politics, which is not, it's politics.
The vote for layoffs was 4-1, and it includes placing the deputy police chief, Lewis Lacey, on administrative leave. The trustees blame Mayor Tiffany Henyard for overspending and mismanagement, and she accuses them of political retaliation. Tonight, the trustees also approved a credit card spending freeze, and they're considering returning the 4 unapproved SUVs that are part of Henyard's security detail. They say have cost the village $250,000 so far. They're also considering selling a building the village owns that has a police department sign on it, but it's never actually been converted to a police department.
There's no more money. Anything we can sell, we need to sell it. If you want to get outside, we'll sell you too. Right now,
Trustee,
right now, you don't tell me what's out of order and what's not in order. We're not doing that today.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard's top aide, Keith Freeman, was not at tonight's meeting, but Henyard announced tonight he is fired. She already fired him from the other government she runs, Thornton Township. Freeman has pleaded not guilty to a bankruptcy fraud charge, but tonight the trustees were trying to block his termination. They believe he's now a whistleblower, and firing a whistleblower could set them up for a lawsuit they simply cannot afford. They're
Starting off with breaking news here at 6, the acting police chief of Dolton now facing federal charges. The grand jury indicted him on bankruptcy fraud charges today.
He's a close ally of Dolton's embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard and the second of her top aides to face a federal indictment. WGN's Jenna Barnes is live for us in Dolton this evening with the latest. Jenna?
Ben and Micah, Deputy Chief Lewis Lacey indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges. He's accused of concealing his income from creditors, filing misleading statements as they sought to recoup nearly $90,000 in unpaid debts, this all dating back to 2015. He's also charged with making false statements and perjury. Lacey is a close ally of Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the second one to be indicted on bankruptcy fraud. Henyard ally Keith Freeman faces the same charge, and we're told he is now cooperating with the trustees who were investigating Henyard, and some believe him to be a whistleblower. I spoke this afternoon with Lacey's attorney. He called today's charges a witch hunt designed to get another Henyard ally to turn on her in this ongoing investigation into her spending.
That's exactly what the U.S. attorney does every single time. They start with people that they believe that they can flip. They go down the line. They show up at 6 o'clock in the morning when a person is not lawyered up, when a person is just waking up, and they're telling you, oh, I'm here to talk to you and be nice to you and don't worry about it, and you're not under arrest, and then we're going to leave and we're not going to arrest you today, but here are some questions that we have for you. So immediately a person puts his foot in the mouth, and from there, the fish is caught.
Is that what they did with Lacey?
To a certain degree, yes.